Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Brandt, President and CEO of AIM Employers Association, and welcome to This Week at Work.
This Week at Work is the only show about the workplace that offers you front row seats and a microphone, featuring experts in human resources and employment law to bring you practical, timely, and accurate insights so you can more effectively lead your organization. It's Thursday, June 27th, episode 285. Today, are you ready to transform your engagement and retention strategies? If not, bravo! But for everyone else, you simply can't afford to miss this episode. According to a recent article by Resources for Employers, it's estimated that replacing an employee will cost on average about 6 to 9 months of their salary. That's a big deal. We'll be joined by Tracey Wik, an AAIM Senior Training Consultant who wowed the crowd at the recent AAIM Leadership Conference during her 2 breakout sessions. Tracey will help us understand the value of creating a coaching culture that drives real results. All this and more on This Week at Work.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Happy to be here 1 week away from Independence Day, 4th of July celebration. Bert, does that get you going?
It does. It's one of my favorite holidays for sure. I love the 4th of July and the meaning behind it, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the 4th.
I am too. It is absolutely doubt, no question, my very first and most favorite holiday. I look forward to it every year. Take time off. It's just a great time to reflect on what I think is the very best country in the world to live in. I'm sure most of our listeners do as well.
That means one negative though, Phil. We won't be on air next week on the 4th of July.
You know what? You deserve the break, Bert.
Thank you.
I hope you're not going to be in California, but nevertheless, you deserve the break, and we will be back on air, I guess, the week after that on our regular schedule.
Yep, we sure will. And I assume, Nick, you and Feature Group are probably once again involved in the award-winning July 4th parade televised from downtown St. Louis. Is that right?
That is correct. We'll be doing that alongside KMOV. It's a special event, and this year we're celebrating St. Louis and building bridges in the community. And actually, I don't know if you know, but the Eads Bridge is 150 years old this year.
Wow.
Holy moly. Hey, that's great. Nick, I also hear that you have won some recent awards again, some tellies.
Oh, yeah. We're honored for what they call excellence in video and television. We kind of competed against Meta. Have you heard of them? Mattel, those guys. So we like to think our clients probably got a really good deal on what we have, what we put together, because I'm sure the budget was a little higher for those. But one was for like a lifestyle video collaboration. It was a manufacturer and an influencer. And the other was for a product launch in the technology field. So we got a couple of Telly Awards.
Well, great job. Congratulations to you and Fred and all the team there at Feature Group. We appreciate everything you do for ourselves here and our listening audience. So you keep up the good work. We're happy to be working with you. And if you ever get a chance to win an award with Bert and I, we'd be really happy about that, Nick. We've been doing this for a few years now. I don't know how much more talent we need to give you, but maybe with Tracey on the program today, we have a chance. Bert, let me introduce you real quick to Tracey Wik. Tracey's been doing some great work for us. She was a speaker at our leadership conference. She's working with one of our members up in the Peoria area as well, very closely. Good morning, Tracey. Say hello to Bert in the audience.
Good morning. Hi, Bert. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be here. Congrats, by the way, on your award.
Happy to have Tracey here. We're going to get back to her in just a minute. Let's go ahead and introduce our poll questions, or our poll question, excuse me. We got one question for you today, and that is, and I hope you give us some responses on this, how does your organization follow up supervisor/manager training? So if you do the training, how do you follow up on the training? We give you 6 options to follow, give us some feedback on. It's not okay to just train. You have to follow up and then have a change in behavior. And I think we're going to get into that conversation here with Tracey and understand how she does that for many of our AIM members. But that's our poll question. If you don't do training, then let us know that too. But let us know why you don't. We'd be curious to share some of that feedback and get a better understanding. All right. Bert, are you ready for Lawyer on the Clock?
Of course I am, Phil.
All right. Well, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Before we do that, are you going to watch a debate tonight?
I am going to watch the debate tonight. I don't probably not going to make much of a difference. Most people probably made up their minds by now, but it's almost like theater at this point.
I think that's why most people are going to be watching it.
Yep.
So it should be good theater. All right.
Yep.
All right. Let's get it going with Lawyer on the Clock. Hey, Nick, pull that lever, buddy.
All right, it's time to look into what's trending in employment law. Lawyer, you're on the clock.
All right, so Phil, unless you've been living under a rock or alternatively have just not been paying attention to our This Week at Work show, barring an injunction, which seems less and less likely with each passing day, then on July 1, that's next week, the salary threshold for FLSA exemptions for executive, administrative, and professional employees will increase from $684 per week. That's $35,568 per year. That will increase to $844 per week, or $43,888 per year. Also, the threshold for highly compensated employees will increase from $107,432 per year to $132,964 per year. Again, barring an injunction, there will be another round of increases effective January 1, 2024. But it's looking at this point like, we're on June 27th, and Monday, I believe, is the 1st. And so this new rule is supposed to go into effect next week. So the clock is really ticking down on this. Again,
nothing coming from our friends down in Texas or anywhere of any plans to intercede this?
Yeah, really good question, Phil. So it's when a similar rule was supposed to take effect back in 2016, the clock was paused at the last moment by a federal judge in Texas who found that the DOL had exceeded its authority under the FLSA by making salary rather than job duties the controlling factor for whether an employee is an exempt executive, administrative, or professional employee. So this past Monday, just a few days ago, another federal judge down in Texas heard arguments on a motion to block implementation of the new rule. And in comments during the hearing, the judge reportedly expressed skepticism about the new rule, suggesting that a repeat of 2016 may well be in the works. But again, today's Thursday, and we've got today, tomorrow. I guess perhaps he could issue an injunction over the weekend, but barring an injunction, the rule will go into effect on Monday.
All right. Well, I know all our AIM members are prepared. They've been blowing up our hotline, and we've been giving lots of advice in that space. I'm sure you and Ogletree team has been doing the same, and it's a huge impact for some of our employers, particularly taking a big impact on our not-for-profits more than anyone, from what I can tell. It was our conversation yesterday in our roundtable for about an hour and a half with Mikey Mack. He was in town and meeting with the leadership chief HR roundtable, and it was definitely part of our topic there.
Yeah, Phil, it is interesting though. I and frankly the rest of my firm, anecdotally, we're not seeing a ton of calls on this, and I think that it's interesting because I think in the wake of COVID, remember, during COVID, salaries bumped up tremendously, and compensation went up, and there was the Great Resignation, and people were having to pay people more money to continue working. I think that there sort of was an adjustment that took place where, this roughly $8,000 difference per year in the salary threshold. I don't know. To me, it seems like a lot of it's been taken care of. I know that we're still seeing obviously some calls, but it's not like it was in 2016.
Yeah, and I think there's some truth to that, Bert. With wage inflation, it may have already taken us there, and it might be why there's such a late delay, if any delay at all, in filing an injunction. But what I can say is, like, the not-for-profits that that kind of rely on program managers by title, people who are running small not-for-profit programs for large not-for-profits, are titled directors and managers, but they don't get paid a lot, but they are definitely directing and managing. So their job duties are fine.
Yep.
It's just the salary that, they receive from the state or the federal government or their donors. So, their salary level is low, but the duties are high. And that really creates problems, sometimes multiplied in the millions as it relates to their staff. It's quite significant.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens, and I want everyone to make as much money as they can, all the right way, doing all the right things. But I think our AIM members are ready to go.
All right.
Good spot.
All right. Well, I'm
What
going to
else you
shift
got,
gears.
Bert?
Yeah, I'm going to shift gears on you, talk about two different but related topics. And just this week, our Eighth Circuit, remember, we're in the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals for the federal circuits. Our Eighth Circuit declined to block the EEOC's regulations implementing the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, while several state attorneys general challenged the dismissal of their suit targeting the rule's abortion coverage. We all remember, of course, that the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, the regulations implementing this were published many months ago, and the PWFA went into effect June 27, 2023. The regulations actually went into effect just June 18th of 2024. So just about 9 days ago. And so there was a lawsuit challenge. 17 attorneys general had challenged the EEOC's regulations implementing the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. That case was dismissed. It's now on appeal. And they asked the Eighth Circuit to issue an injunction barring the enforcement of those regulations while the appeal is pending. And the Eighth Circuit has decided that they're not going to block the regulations during the course of the appeal. And so I think that tells us several things. Number one, that the Eighth Circuit judges don't see that ultimately those 17 state attorney generals are going to prevail in the litigation. The lawsuit was dismissed at the trial level by a U.S. district judge, basically asserting that those states lacked standing to knock down the EEOC's rule. And so I think the Eighth Circuit is saying by not enjoining the regulations, they're saying we don't think that you're likely to prevail on the merits of the claim because you probably don't have standing. So just a reminder that the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act regulations are in effect. They went into effect June 18th. They remain in effect right now. And that's the guidance we have. And then that just does touch on another subject, Phil, that just because of timeliness, 1 year ago today, on June 27th, 2023, the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act actually went into effect. And so we've been dealing with this new law for a year. And I will tell you that, again, anecdotally, well, from myself and then anecdotally through others with my firm, we're not getting a ton of calls on PWFA related issues. And
we are not on that one either. No.
Yeah. And I think that's a good sign that that employers are dealing well with this issue. And I think it also means that employers had been dealing with it well before the law even went into effect. And so,
well, Bert, I got to say that's got probably a lot to do with your lawyer on the clock segment, keeping people up to date. Our listener viewership now, I mean, it's up like 5 to 7 times the viewership that we had when we were at our peak just a few years ago. So my guess is it's because of your updates that we're able to keep people ready and informed and in position to manage their business more effectively. So you just keep it up, Bert. You're doing a good job for us here.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate that. I think you're self-aggrandizing me a little too much, but I'll take it.
Yeah,
but
we'll take
yeah,
it. I think take whatever you can get. That's what I was always taught.
Yeah, I think my point really is that I think that probably even before the passage of this law, that employers had been doing a good job accommodating pregnancy-related health conditions, probably under the ADA and just out of a reasonable accommodation approach. And so I think that while the law is great and it was a bipartisan effort to pass this law, I think that in reality, most private employers had been doing a pretty darn good job of accommodating pregnancy-related issues in the workplace, even without the passage of the law. So from my perspective, that just shows that employers generally are out there trying to do the right thing, and most of the time they get it right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. But I'm still going to give you a pat on the back there, Bert.
Thank you.
You're usually out in front of these and give us great guidance. And I know from our listeners' comments, they're very well appreciated. Anything else from you, lawyer on the clock?
Nope. I think just gearing up for the holiday next week. That's it, Phil.
All right. Well, remember, don't hold those fireworks in your hand when you light them and run fast. All right. Well, that's the lawyer on the clock segment. Nick, how about what is it? Philbert's Forum. I think we have some contributions from Stacy, if everyone remembers Stacy from just a few weeks ago. Stacy was on the program. She did a great job. If you haven't and didn't see her episode at 282, she did a great job talking about how you treat applicants like the customer. And she was bringing forth her experience and what she and her team does with approaching the application pool like the customer. And it really has changed how they recruit and the results they're achieving. And I loved her vision. She was on the program. We sent her a mug, and you can see here is attached my mug holding your mug. I love it when talking about her favorite topic, employee engagement culture, all comes together with drinking coffee. So we appreciate that, Stacy. Thanks for sharing that photo with us. She looks really happy and excited to have that mug of coffee there. So thank you, Stacy. All right, Nick, are we ready to get going? Tracy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So let's reintroduce you there. Tracey Wik, one of our AIM consultants and does a lot of great work with us. Tracey, why don't you just start with telling the group, you did a fantastic job at the leadership conference. You hosted 2 sessions because we had an emergency fill-in, right? So this gave you a great, you had to use some flexibility and come up with an adjacent topic that you didn't come to present on, but however you did it, you got glowing remarks for that. So just tell us a little bit about what you do for AIM and what you're actively doing now up in Central Illinois, up in the Peoria market.
Okay. What I do for AIM, I'm a leadership practitioner. I do facilitation and I do coaching. And what I always introduce myself as is I'm on a mission to have everyone love Sunday nights. And whether that's figuratively, you might work 3 shifts that are not on Sunday, or literally. And so one of the things that I love most is facilitating AIM's courses because it really gives people access to how they can love Sunday night. What I've been up to is really thinking about, particularly with one of the, I love the poll, by the way, one of the clients in Peoria is really how can you make things come alive after the training? How can you give what I'd like to say returns at bat of the material? Because the material is wonderful, but it really is, from my point of view, the ability to have it come alive after, and I talk about this in my sessions, after I leave. So that's what I've been doing.
That's fantastic. Tracey, I don't think we have this to show, but I just want to ask you, can you comment on this slide here? It's the turnover trigger slide.
Yeah.
I'd like to get some input on this. It's a great slide, and maybe we can make it available to our listeners. But I studied this a little bit last night, and I've got to use it. It's a great slide to help us understand turnover.
Okay, it's one of my favorite slides. So I use it in both of my sessions. And what I love about it is I talk about people always go to money. People think that money is, the answer. And by the way, what I say is money is a table stake. We all work for money. That's just, let's agree on that. But what triggers people to leave, if you look at data, and I don't care what data source you look at, this is pretty consistent. It's everything else. In the AIM world, we call it the motivation 3.0. All those things that you work for, the advancement, your career, appreciation, being part of a team, you want to be a leader. And so what I've really gotten curious about is how can we help people identify those triggers in advance before the person leaves. And so these are the top triggers, the basically wants development, advance, all the things I'm talking about. And I think that if you are able to take a look at this and think about your own company, where are those triggers for your team? I think it really makes a huge difference in how you follow up with your trainings.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just going to tie into this a conversation we had with Mikey Mack. Mikey is our compensation consultant, and of course, he is focused on compensation. And when people engage Mikey, they're looking at, we think our compensation structure needs some work. We need to tighten it up. Maybe there's something that's out of alignment. And almost every time we're in conversation with him, he's like, look, it's much bigger than comp. You have to have comp, and comp's got to be right, but it doesn't have to be the highest paid comp unless you're in some very specific, very tight markets. But even in that scenario, I think Mikey would say, you got to do all the other things right. And I'm just going to read a few of these items, right? The turnover triggers, wants development, wants advancement, wants challenge, wants capable leader, which I think maybe you can talk about here in just a minute, wants opinions valued, wants to lead, and you go on down the list. And I mean, none of those have anything to do with financial reward. And of the 13 items, wants higher pay is item number 12. That's the first item that comes on the list that is related to pay. So that brings up all the things that we do that aren't pay oriented. Making a basic assumption that pay is already done right. Tell us about some of the things that you do with our AIM members around getting the rest of that formula right, around those items we just read off.
Yep. So first of all, let's start with engagement. So engagement, I'm a huge fan of engagement surveys. I know whether you do them yearly, you do them quarterly. I know there's some folks that do pulse surveys, whatever, do the engagement surveys. And also, the other thing that I think about with engagement is while they're fantastic, they give you the symptoms, if you will, they kind of give you at a high level these turnover triggers. Whether people are looking for more advancement or whether they want to lead, they want more challenge in their work. And then the next thing you want to think about is how do you then take that data and make it personal and take it down to the level where people can use it in their day-to-day. And what I like to say is you're just one conversation away from being able to put these things into action for you. And so the first thing is, of course, using your engagement and then thinking about your trainings. Where do you want to send folks? And then once you've sent them to training, then focus on thinking about the coaching and how you can bring this, which I love this slide, feedback, coaching, all of that to make it come alive on the day-to-day, because really the rubber meets the road with people leaving the sessions and their ability to put it into work.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a look at our survey results this far. Nick, if you can pull that up. And Tracey, maybe you can just comment on this. Any thoughts that come to mind when you see these results? Anything that surprises you? Any thoughts that come to mind?
Well, first of all, I'm thrilled by them because it looks like most people are doing some aspect of follow-up, which is essential. So continuing education is key. The key is to take, again, the engagement data, think about a roadmap about the trainings that you're offering, and then the feedback and the self-reflection being so high along with coaching and mentoring is fantastic. Because I think, I'll share a story of my own journey on this. When I was internal, when I was an HR talent leader myself, part of my job was to roll out our employee engagement survey. And we would do the action sessions, and I loved it. It was the best part of my job. But inevitably, someone would look at me, one of the managers, and say, yeah, but how do I use this? How do I do something with this in my day-to-day? And so I've really taken on cracking the code about that. And what I see in this data is so have the members, from the point of view of looking at feedback, taking the, just some questions that they can ask their teams. The coaching and mentoring can be very informal, all the way up to some of the work that we're doing in Peoria, which is quite formal. So wherever, it's really about meeting your employees with what they're looking for.
Yeah. Hey, we have a comment here in our chat line that just says, really, it's how do I get managers to take the time post-training to marinate the new learnings? And I think that's a great question that really talks a little bit about what you're doing now as a best practice, what I would recommend every employer does, but I know not everyone can. But maybe you can take a shot at cracking that question and tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Peoria.
Yeah, so what I'm doing in Peoria is I'm on site as a job coach for all 3 shifts, first, second, and third. There you see me, okay? And we actually go to the supervisors.
I particularly like that hard hat. That is a really good look for you. It's a great look. And Tracy, the vest. Are you sure you're not a crossing guard?
I love that picture. I sent it to my family. I'm glad you like it too. I'm such a fashionista in my hat.
Yeah.
Tracy, if you're on first, second, and third shift, when are you sleeping?
Yeah. Well, I don't do, it's just a couple times a month. I know.
All right. Okay.
You don't want to talk to me the day after I've done that, okay? Because I'm a little loopy, I will admit. Okay. But yeah, we go and I'm there these 3 shifts. And so the answer to the question, how you make it like get your managers, which we have done, by the way, here at Liberty, is you give them really simple things to do. What I say, you make it consumable. Okay. So what we've done is we've created little, basically we focus. Okay. But before I went there, they all did the supervisory training. So I took some of the material from the supervisory training, and when I show up, we focus on it, and I give them 1 or 2 things to do, 1 or 2 questions to ask. Like, for example, what are you hoping to learn? Tell me about a highlight of your experience. Tell me about a low light. What can we do to make projects more effective? You give them really simple questions to ask. And what I have found, and then you give them the opportunity to practice in a safe way, meaning, they practice with me before they go back to their teams. And you find that the effectiveness, if you think about any sports that anyone's ever done, you need practice. You need turns at the, swinging the bat or running the plays. And so this is how you close the gap. And what you have to do is you have to give it to your managers in bite-sized pieces. Because otherwise, if they take a step back, it can seem overwhelming when you think about putting an action plan together. But if you just make it one step in front of what I say is the breadcrumbs, they're more than willing. In fact, they want it because they're a little nervous about pursuing it on their own.
Now, is that, before we get off the practice, I mean, I have seen Bert on camera sometimes before the show and no one's looking, and he's practicing his lines and he's going, you can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. And he's really practicing his lines. But anyway, back to practice for a minute. How is that received, right? So I'm thinking you got men and women who are working, in your case, you're working in a pretty heavy manufacturing process. It's a union environment. And here you are practicing with supervisors and managers how to be better. How do they receive that?
Yeah. Well, at first it was, okay, who are you? I had to, we had to win over their credibility. And why are you here on third shift? Okay. And yes. Okay. And then once they saw the effectiveness, again, the win of just taking one question or one thing to do differently in their coaching with their team, now it's fantastic. I mean, our numbers have really, their turnover is down, their safety metrics. I mean, and we really work again with the management team to understand what are their goals and help the team forward them through our coaching. So it's been received very well. And when I'm not showing up, meaning like we get busy or there's, they're like, hey, I've been missing you. And we even got a shout out in their employee engagement survey about the impact that we've made.
Fantastic. I mean, that's a great result, and I do subscribe to that. It does take practice, right? This is a skill that you have to learn. Some people have more natural ability than other. However, practice is something that I know I have to practice at, my leadership skills from time to time in different areas of where I know I have weaknesses, and I do practice. We practice when we present. We practice when we're going to, be in front of an audience. Bert's practicing, his platform skills and trial all the time with "you can't handle the truth." But our supervisors and managers are where the rubber meets the road for most of us when it comes to culture. And so seeing the work that you're doing there is fantastic. Getting those shout outs is wonderful. Tracey, I'm very thankful for all the things that you do for all of our members, because it is about making a difference. And I know that you are doing that. Thank you again for stepping up at our leadership conference last month and taking on an additional topic at the last minute. I appreciate the slide that you shared with us, and I hope you'll join us back on the program again sometime real soon.
Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. Bert, you, Tracey, Nick, the team there at Feature Group, everybody have a happy and safe 4th of July. And we will be back here in 2 weeks, 7:30 Central Time. Until then, let's go out and be good to someone every day. Bye-bye.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link, aimea.org/This Week at Work, or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment. LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere you are. Don't forget you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.